Welcome to Mind and Muscle's inaugural podcast where mind meets muscle. My name is David Reid, and I will be your host tonight. I would like to welcome our first guest ever on this show. His name is Bill Tocco. He's from Detroit, Michigan. Bill was a champion skateboarder in the past. He's also a very high-level bodybuilder, competed in our state championships recently and won the Masters division. He's also a diet coach and a trainer. So I'd like to welcome Bill to the show. So without further ado, Bill Tocco, welcome to our show.
Hi, Dave. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem, man. So tell us a little bit about your background. You have a really interesting background. Most people probably don't come from the same background you did, so I'd kind of give the audience a little bit of an idea of what you did before.
Well, I actually got interested in weight training really from my father, who he has passed away now in March, but he was 92, and he used to train at the original Armento's gym in Detroit back in the 40s. So I really actually picked up a lot of the weight training stuff from him. Back then it wasn't really called bodybuilding or even powerlifting. It was called just weightlifting. So I kind of had it in my blood really from my father. But I think the first time I really trained in an actual gym was when I was about 11 years old. I was taking Taekwondo. And at this Taekwondo studio, they also had a full gym, which most of the students didn't use it. But I was always looking in there. And one day I went in there and I started messing around. And you had to be like 13, I guess, to start weight training in there, so I just would bug them every day to let me do it, so they finally did. And that was kind of my first introduction into bodybuilding and actually doing a split routine. So that's kind of really where it started for me. So I really actually started lifting weights when I was very, very young, and it's just something I've always really been interested in. So that's kind of like my bodybuilding story. As far as like, actual, lifting weights, not really so much bodybuilding, but lifting weights. I've always really been interested in that for a long time, since I was like basically 12 years old.
That's awesome. I mean, not many guys get that young start. A lot of them, you'll see guys that, they'll come into it. I think now more days than before when we were younger guys, they people kind of held off, you shouldn't lift weights, it'll stunt your growth. There's all kinds of crazy rumors going around. But you get these kids now that, the Cody Montgomerys of the world, I mean, he's 20 years old and turned pro. He's been banging the weights pretty hard since he was 12, 13 years old. That's the only way you could have that kind of an astronomical climb. Tell us a little bit about your skateboarding background. I think some people would be pretty blown away by that. It's pretty fascinating to me.
Well, actually, yeah, I was actually skateboarding before I even started fooling around with the weights. I started actually skateboarding when I was about 7 years old. My parents used to own a restaurant up towards Ann Arbor, Michigan, and some of the bus boys at the time were skateboarding. It was in the mid-'70s, so skateboarding actually, that was one of the highs. Skateboarding a lot of times has been like a roller coaster. It'll have very high peaks and then low valleys as far as like its popularity, and that just happened to be one of the real big, huge peaks in skateboarding was in the mid-'70s. So I was like, wow, that's cool. I'm going to try that. So, they let me try one of the boards, and they were, like, kind of impressed that I actually had, like, a natural aptitude and good balance. And I didn't know I was any good, but they were telling me, hey, you're pretty good. So I actually kind of stuck with it, and that was kind of like the whole start of my skateboarding thing, as I just kept going, and I eventually started skateboarding in empty swimming pools and basically some of the first skate parks in Michigan. One of the first ones actually that was erected was in Redford, Michigan, and that was up for a couple years, and then it actually closed. And that actually, seemed like a horrible thing at the time because it was like my local skate park, but it gave me an opportunity to explore a few other parks in the area, which really kind of changed my life. Is when I went to Endless Summer Skateboard Park, and that was in Roseville, Michigan, and that's where I met most of my friends that I'm still friends with to this day, that really pushed me as far as being a competitive skateboarder. So as soon as I went to that park, it was just like, that was what I wanted to do. I skateboarded day and night, and, my mom used to drop me off there at like in the summer, like at noon, and then I would basically be picked up at like 8 at night. So I was doing that for many, many years until I was a sponsored amateur, and then I turned pro. And, as I was doing all this, I was still kind of working out here and there, but it wasn't anything like consistent until I had a really serious knee injury in 1988, actually, when I was pro. And one of my sponsors at the time was Gold's Gym in Venice, California. So I went out there to do some rehab, and I was just around all these people who were, had so much knowledge about training and nutrition. And I really soaked it up. And that's kind of how I started, thinking about competitive aspects of bodybuilding and really learning everything I could really about nutrition. I mean, I was really excited by it and just really pumped up by the nutrition end of it. That was something that I could see myself doing in the future as far as helping people out and having them achieve their goals. So that's kind of just a brief overview of how I got interested in, nutrition after skateboarding and whatnot.
Oh, that's awesome. What did anything prompt you to retire from competing in skateboarding? Was it knee injury?
Oh, a couple bad knee injuries. I did, have a brief, some comebacks and stuff, and I was involved in the industry for quite a while after my injuries. But, yeah, it was the technology, let's say, to put knees back together back then was not like it is today. So, yeah, that's a little bit shortened my career and kind of ended it a little quicker than I wanted it to, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I know, I played college ball back in the 80s, and if you got a knee injury back then, you were history. There was none of these fancy ACL reconstructions the way they can. I mean, they can do some amazing things nowadays. Like you said, the technology's advanced so far. So, unfortunately, when one door, closes, fortunately another one will open. So, I mean, that's a good thing in life. You always find different avenues to pursue. Like maybe you hit the peak on that one, and now it's moving forward.
Yeah.
Competing,
very true.
Competing is a really weird thing, right? So, I know for me, what prompted me to compete, but I mean, how did you end up deciding to get into competition? Because that's a big step when you're lifting weights. I mean, going from lifting weights in the gym and eating well to getting on stage and a little skimpy pair of posing trunks, that's a whole different world. So, what prompted you to get into that?
Well, you know what? Honestly, it was in the back of my mind for years before I even competed. So I knew that eventually that I was going to compete, and the first time that I competed was in the 1992 Western Michigan. And, I was actually helping some people even before my first show actually prep for a couple of their contests. So basically all the knowledge that I had, I was putting it to use on myself. So it was kind of interesting taking myself through the process, and I actually ended up being a light heavyweight, but when I got there for this novice class, this is my first show I ever did, there was no light heavyweights that showed up, so I actually competed in the heavyweight class as a novice, and I got second place. I know that the guy outweighed me by a lot of pounds, the guy who won, so it was kind of funny. A lot taller than me, so when you see pictures from it, I'm like a good foot shorter, so it looks pretty funny on stage. But that was kind of like my first introduction into competing. So I had fun. It was a strange process to actually go through it myself instead of helping someone, because I did help a few athletes before then get ready for shows. And actually a friend of mine now that's still competing, Joe Rubino in Chicago, I actually helped him prepare for a show in 1990. So that was a couple years before I even stepped on stage. And he's actually still competing now. He was just in the Masters Nationals last year and the Team Universe. So crazy that still competing, and it's kind of coming full circle.
Yeah, I met Joe backstage, and I know you had told him I'd be there, and because you actually, for the people that are out there listening, Bill prepped me for the Masters Nationals. Did a fantastic job. He's a great diet coach. Anybody that's looking for a diet coach you'd be hard pressed to find anybody better out there these days. Joe was a hell of a guy, very, very gracious and kind, and I was a little bit intimidated back there, seeing all these crazy physiques, and I wasn't sure. You know, it was nice to see a friendly face. And there's a few people that know you and Shelby, so they came up to me back there, and we had conversations. So it was kind of nice because I kind of felt alone a little bit myself. Yeah, so that's cool. So you did, and then after the 92, what did you do after that? What was your next show?
Actually, I had a long break in between my competitions. I actually didn't compete again until 2013, if you can believe it. So I had obviously a huge gap there, and I decided, I was like, you know, I'm over 40 at this point, you know, when the 2013 show, and I'm like thinking to myself, I want to see if I can get in the kind of condition and shape that I can, able to, you know, win a show or at least place, you know, relatively high. And it was kind of just like a contest against myself to see if I could do that at an advanced age. And it went pretty well. I actually won the master's class. That's all I entered. I wanted to concentrate on one thing since it was the first thing I haven't done any shows in so long. I wanted to concentrate on that. So it went well. I was, you know, in good enough condition to win. And that kind of got it all started. I just figured, you know, after that point, seeing that I could do it at an advanced age, and I wanted to improve even more, and I vowed the next time I step on stage, I'm going to be in, you know, the kind of condition that I could envision myself in my head being for a show, and that was just, you know, came to fruition at the Michigan, and that was really a kind of an emotional thing for me, because I always wanted to get in that condition, because I could always see that in my head. And it, you know, it finally came to real life. You know, I had a great coach helping me, and a friend of mine, Shelby Starnes, and he put the plan together, and I just basically did what he said, and I got in crazy condition. So I was really happy.
Yeah, it's amazing when you follow the plan, how that works out for you. You know, like I know as all the years I prep people, probably like 16, 17 years, I was prepping people for shows, and I'd be like, you know, the ones who would always do well or win were the ones who actually just listened and did the plan to the letter, and then the other ones who were like, you know, a fart in a windstorm. These people had no concept of, like, sticking to a plan. It's like they'd be listening to the people in the gym, and I'm like, listen, man, listen to that guy or listen to me, one or the other. It's like not going to work out if there's too many cooks in the kitchen, and that's just, you know, I mean, like when you prep me for Masters, I just, you know what, I check in, you tell me what to do, I just do it, right? That's simple as that. And it's like people, everybody that's listening out there, if you're trying to do well at this and you put your trust into somebody to run your prep, then you need to listen to that person because they have a plan, right? And if you start listening to Coach X over here and he has a whole different, you know, his plan might be just as good as Coach Y or Bill's plan, right? But if you're following bits and pieces of both, it usually muddles the whole you know, you end up looking like hell because you didn't follow the plan. You're trying to bounce between two different people. Just have faith in the person you put the faith into, right?
Yeah, I've been in a situation where I've been in the gym and people, you know, come and ask for advice, but then I find out they have a coach, and I'm like, oh, you know, I tell them, look, man, stick to the plan. And I'm really hesitant of really even saying anything positive or negative because I know how important it is to stick to the plan. And if they have a coach, I don't want to, A, overstep my bounds, and B, give them any information that would lead them to do something else and screw up the plan. So, you know, if they're working with someone else, I don't want to interfere with that.
Yeah, you're one of the guys in the sport. I mean, there's people with some pretty big egos. There's some diet coaches out there. I mean, when you start proclaiming yourself the guru, it's just like, to me, you're an idiot. You know, I don't care you know, you can have the best athletes in the world and look amazing and not really know what the hell you're doing just because you have people with superior genetics or they're on a complete assload of drugs that masks the failures of the diet plan, right? So, you know, when people are doing it on a different level, and you have maybe guys with maybe subpar or worse genetics, and they're trying to compete, it's like the plan has to be articulated really well And I mean, you're one of those guys who, you're a breath of fresh air in the sport because you're gracious, and that sometimes is lacking in our sport, to be honest. And that's the sad thing. But I think backstage at the Michigan when I met you, I was impressed with you and your wife, number one, and then I just looked at there was some really good people back there. It was a really odd contest. There was a lot of camaraderie, a lot of just good stuff going on back there.
Yeah, I did. I met a lot of nice people at that show, so it definitely made the experience more enjoyable for me. That's for sure.
Yeah, I met a diet coach. I don't know what his name was, Bill Tocco. No. So anyway, what are your plans for the future, competing wise? I mean, what do you plan on doing in the near future? Do you have any long-term plans that you'd like to? Obviously you want to take the first step, but do you have anything coming up the line, or do you have any future goals that you want to achieve?
Well, as far as competition-wise, I am getting ready right now for the Junior USAs, which are in the end of May, and then a couple weeks later, the Junior Nationals, which are held in Illinois in a couple weeks after that. So that's the Junior Nationals. So the Junior USAs first, then the Junior Nationals, and then after that, I'll get with my coach and reassess and see where we're going to go from there. But I don't like to get too far ahead, but those are the two next contests that I'm going to do. Yeah. So I'm basically kind of tailing off the off season. I have about 9.5 more weeks for the off season, and then I will start my prep about 18 weeks out. So that's my future plans as far as stuff coming up in the next, say, this summer. Yeah. That's great to, you have like a vision. So, I mean, a lot of people don't understand it. I mean, there's people that are bodybuilders that are listening to the show. There's other people that don't know. I mean, you're preparing for that show 1 year out. You know what I'm saying? Like, literally, like, you step off stage at your last show in June in the Michigan, and you're already preparing for the future. I mean, kind of elucidate a little bit on that for people so they can understand, like, how you came out of your diet to move forward for 2016 competition. Yeah, basically after the Michigan, I believe it was the next day, which was a Sunday, I met with Shelby, and we went over a few things and kind of made the plan for this year. And basically it started on Monday, the following day. So, I don't know if everybody attacks it quite like that, but I think that if you want to be really good at something, excel at something, you have to be, somewhat obsessive about it. So that's just kind of how I've always treated things when I wanted to get good at it. I just really become obsessive and until I get that goal. So, it's definitely a lot of planning. And then, a lot of people only see the finished product. They don't see what you're doing every day, day in and day out. And I think that's where some people, they have an image in their head, like, they want to compete, they want to do this, but then when they realize, wow, I have to do this every day, day in and day out for years, that, scares them, and I think then they decide they want to take up something else, whatever that is.
Yeah, it's one of those sports that I tell people all the time. I said, listen, the first prep, I go, two things are going to happen. You're either going to love it or you're going to hate it. You're either going to be bit by it and want to do it more, or you're going to just say, you know what, this isn't for me, because, like you said, there's an amount of tedium that comes with this. It's, sitting on a treadmill for 55 minutes at 4:30 in the morning is not a lot of fun. It's like mind-numbingly boring stuff, but it's like, it's the necessary evil in the sport. You hear people, I don't do any cardio, all bullshit, If you're not doing some form of cardio, I don't care, that just means you're taking a lot more drugs, thermogenics and thyroid drugs, so you're not having to do anything. There's a rare few guys in this world that can probably get away with not doing it, but otherwise it's just plain hard work, man. That's just the way it is, So
I agree.
Philosophically,
a lot of hard work.
Philosophically, how do you feel like, what I'm saying? Like, everybody has, you got guys that train, I'm training Dorian's way, well, that's really Mike Mentzer's way, or which is actually Arthur Jones's way. So, like, you have the high intensity guys, you have the high volume guys. I mean, what do you follow? What is your type of programming and, for the off season with the weights anyways?
Well, actually, I train full-time now. Since actually July, I was training part-time with Shelby only on Saturdays, which was leg day. So I was his main partner for legs. But then when I had my schedule change up, I am now able to, starting in July, was to train full-time with him. So we're on a 4-day split. Most of our stuff is mountain dog style training. So we really believe on attacking the body from a lot of different angles and a lot of variety. None of the workouts are the same, which is really refreshing, I think, to me. I don't really like doing the same stuff all the time. And I think, too, one thing that is glossed over a lot is actually exercise selection, and the order you put them in is also important when you're getting a little bit more advanced in age, to protect your joints and to stay healthy, because if you can't train and you're hurt all the time, then you're not going to progress. So I think that's another key element to our training, is that basically warming up the joints before we do huge compound movements, and basically just the intensity, and then also doing everything correctly, getting a slow negative. Sometimes stuff calls for a 3-second negative, but if it doesn't, then we're still always lowering the weight under control. Number one, for safety, and number two, it's going to put a lot more stress and damage the muscle more. So you're getting a lot more out of it, and a lot more muscle growth. So basically, very perfect reps, doing exercises the right way, having your body angled the right way. If you're standing up doing any kind of a row, make sure your feet are how they're supposed to be positioned. There's a lot that goes into it. So, I was even thinking today when we did a back workout, having to put my feet in a certain foot position to do something that we were doing. There's a lot to think about, and then you're actually using a weight that, is hard for the amount of reps you're doing. Like when we do, let's say, sets of 8 of something, that 8th rep is not very easy, especially doing the rep perfect, under control, and then having your body a certain way. So it's, I guess, a thinking man's way of training, really. It's not just, you pick up a weight and throw it around. So I enjoy it, because you really do have to use your mind, and you have to be in the moment. You have to really be aware of your surroundings all the time. Like, for me, I even take it a step further than most people, because in between sets, I really don't talk. I'm thinking about my next set, and if I start to talk and stuff, it distracts me from being in the moment. I don't like to drift off and go somewhere else in my mind. I need to really be in that spot, in that gym, and knowing what's going on, so I can prepare myself for the next set. Because if you waste a rep, if you waste a set, it's just going to, basically inhibit you from your goals, getting you there in a timely fashion.
Yeah, no, I know what you're saying, because, like, I've had these conversations. I had a client who used to be meticulous about writing. I think he wrote a book of quotes that he trained with me over like 13 years, and he would tell me things I said that I don't remember saying, or I do recall saying them sometimes, but they were just more or less, something that you say in the moment, but you don't really realize like how much that affects somebody. It's like a small cue. And I told him, I said, I remember one time one of the things was, I said, moving that weight that extra quarter of an inch makes a lot of difference. I go, a quarter of an inch isn't much. I go, but a quarter of an inch over thousands of repetitions, that's a huge amount. So those little details that people don't want to, I tell people, I go, listen, bodybuilding is moving a weight. It's how you move something from point A to point B. Lifting weights is just picking it up and moving it from A to B. Like powerlifters are notorious for just exploding through their reps, and they don't care how the weight comes up. They just care that it comes up. We're always trying to like lock in and get the muscle to grab at the right moment and get the right tension in the muscle, and that takes a hell of a lot of mental concentration. Like I think sometimes you get as much mentally fatigued as you do physically, just trying to, quote unquote, the mind muscle connection becomes paramount. And the further you go, I think, correctly, I think you would agree, it becomes more important, not less. So
yeah, I mean, with powerlifting, obviously the whole point is getting the weight from A to B, which is fine. But I think that when some people train, they're doing a set and they're really not doing it correctly. But to me, it's like, okay, well, if they're doing a set not correctly, let's just let me just throw out an example. Let's say they're doing a bent over row and they're doing it but poorly, but the whole set took them, let's say 20 seconds. I'm just making up an arbitrary number. And I go and do it, and I do it correctly, and it takes me 20 seconds. Well, this guy's still in the gym the same amount of time as I am, so you're there. You might as well do it right. You know, you're there the same amount of time. I mean, you might as well do it right. It's either, you do it right or really you'd be better off basically staying home and probably reading a book because you're going to get a lot more out of that than you would doing something incorrectly, I think.
No, I agree with you. 100%. So you mentioned earlier that you train with Shelby Starnes, and I know Shelby's like he's one of the more cerebral bodybuilders that I've seen, and he's very meticulous about everything he does. I've seen his training videos. Also, I know you guys train at a couple different gyms, so maybe you could speak a little bit further on that.
Yeah, I train with Shelby. Like I said, 4 days a week we train. We split it up between Royal Oak Gym and the original Powerhouse on 6th and Woodward in Highland Park. That's the original Powerhouse, the very first one ever constructed in the world. So we basically split it up between those two things. Training with Shelby is great. I mean, I learn every day that I train with him. And, a lot of people, I think, that have not trained with him and just see it from afar as far as online, and he's cerebral and meticulous, but he has a lot of guts. And if you really want to, if someone really wanted to find out with them, you really couldn't get that experience unless you train with him. Because let's say, for instance, someone like Ronnie Coleman, he can put 12 plates on a T-bar row and do that 12 times, and to him that's not heavy. So what I'm getting at is you can't really base intensity on the amount of weight someone can lift, because let's say, for instance, you're doing 5 plates and you can only get 8 with perfect reps and perfect form, and that's heavy for you. So you can't say that the guy who's doing 12 plates is training more intensely than you are, okay? That's what I'm getting at with Shelby. Like, he might not do 12 plates on a T-bar row. Or he might do 6 or 5 or whatever it is. But that doesn't mean he's not training as intensely as Ronnie Coleman is, because he really is one of the most probably intense trainers on the planet, in my opinion. I mean, he gives it his all every rep. There is no reps that he takes off. And that's great for me, because that means he can't take any reps off, because he's right there basically reprimanding me. And basically, it's not reprimanding, but making sure and keeping me honest that I'm doing it correctly and that I'm not shorting myself. Now, I'm lucky to have that, because I don't think most people care if their training partner's shorting themselves or whatever. I do, and I know Shelby does. So for me, I mean, it's like a dream. It's incredible.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's a great partnership, because, I tend to train a lot on my own just because, I have a hard time finding that. And then, there's the other element that a lot of times, like, weight-wise, like, I end up, tearing down a ton of weight. So I'm pretty strong and stuff. So, like, guys like I train with, I don't want to sit there stripping the squat bar or, the leg press. Like, it's hard enough to train. I train at 6 in the morning. So, I get what you're saying. I mean, you're a lucky guy, man, to have, like, a great partner. And then Shelby's also lucky to have you as a training partner. What do you like about the two different gyms? Royal Oak, I mean...
Yeah, I can tell you that. That's pretty simple. Royal Oak is like, it's funny, Shelby calls it the museum, because all this equipment's really old, but it's really old equipment, but it's really good equipment. They have more like powerlifting type stuff. They have a ton of squat racks. They have chains. They have all kinds of bands. So for some workouts, we prefer going there. And then Highland Park has a lot of good machines. If we're going to start, let's say, for instance, a chest workout out and it calls for a machine, we basically would probably always start at Highland Park, because they have a lot of varieties in their machines, so different angles and stuff. If we're going to start with dumbbells or free weights, we would pick Royal Oak, for example, if we were, say, just doing chest or whatever. So there's differences in both places. Basically, Highland Park has more machines, more variety, and then Royal Oak has more of a powerlifting type equipment and atmosphere there.
That's pretty amazing. That's impressive because, I mean, I know where you live, so you're pretty much, you couldn't be slotted any better to get to those two gyms, both about equidistant from where you're kind of in a nice little central hub. I used to live about 2-3 blocks from Bill, so I know the area really well, and there's some really good restaurants around there and chains of grocery stores that I'm kind of pissed off that I moved, because I miss those places like Trader Joe's and Hollywood Market and stuff. So good stuff, good food. So
everything's pretty close.
And also,
it's definitely
a
spot for me.
Yeah, you live in a nice area. So tell us a little bit more about your business, because I know you went full time into prepping and training this past year after years working in management of sanitation and stuff. So tell us a little bit more about that.
I started going full time back in July with my company called War Room Nutrition, and I basically, I help everybody from just beginners that are just starting out and they want to compete, say in bodybuilding or fitness, and then I just have, extreme competitors that do national contests, and then just everyday people that just want to, get in shape and lose some weight. So it's, it's basically for everybody. I don't really prefer one thing over the other as far as what kind of client it is. I just really want to, perfect everything to where everybody's getting really, really good results. So I'm looking forward to the future with the company, especially some of the competitors I have that are going into national contests. That's really fun for me because it's almost like a competition to see, how I can do and how I can bring these people in and, how well they can do it at a higher level. So for me, it's almost like a competition against myself to see, how good I can bring these people in and how I can perfect my craft over time. So, and then as far as training anybody, I do train a few clients locally, and I will continue to do that. My love is really more into the nutrition, but the clients that I do have for training, I'm really into it with them, and I really put them through some really good workouts, and it's very similar to the training that I do with Shelby. It's just a lot of different angles and really hitting the whole body, like I said, a lot of different angles. So it never really gets boring for me because we're always changing the routine, and then it also doesn't get boring for the client because they're always getting introduced to new stuff, and, the exercise sequence is different. And I hear that a lot from my clients that I do personal training with is that they used to get really bored because they always did the same stuff, and I'm always incorporating new intensity techniques as well, so it's just keeping it fresh with that. So, I'm just looking forward to the future, building my company and, really seeing how far I can take this. But it's definitely something that I enjoy and that I look forward to doing every day, and it's something I love. Basically like how skateboarding was. I mean, that's something obviously I enjoyed, I loved, and I look forward to doing it every day, so it really wasn't like work. So this is basically, same vein for sure.
No, I know what you're saying, because when I was before I came over here to Mind and Muscle, when I was just training, I would go through fits and starts with okay, I'm just training regular people. Okay, now I'm going to train a lot more competitors. Okay, now I'm training a lot of high-level athletes. I train NFL guys, NHL guys, college, and I would go through these because it would just keep me invigorated and into the game more, because I'd get bored with sometimes, in that business, the housewives and the CEOs and those people, the regular Joes, are the ones who are consistent and pay your bills. The athletes, as you go, I think you'll see, because I know how your business is going. You're growing and growing with the diet business. I couldn't recommend a better coach myself. So if anybody's out there listening, you want like I said, if you want a really good high-end diet coach, that's not going to put you in the poorhouse. You can go after Matt Porters and John Meadows of the world, but good luck. You know, I mean, first off, they're very selective about who they take on. And, you know, I think with Bill, you know, you get a great diet coach, and, you know, he's been doing this a long time, but he just started out in this business as a full-time diet coach, so he's a little more reasonable. You know, get on board now before he becomes, like, too much bigger, because he's already getting some national exposure, and he won't be quite so easy to get a hold of.
You're too kind, man. You're too kind, buddy.
So tell us about any kind of... Oh, yeah, no, heck no, man. I couldn't recommend you better. You know, you're a hell of a guy. Talk about any sponsorships and stuff that you have. I know you've been doing some stuff with, I know you did some ad work with, what is it, Muscle Sport Magazine? And
Yeah, Muscle Sport Magazine is actually one of my sponsors. They have an online magazine, and they also have a website that's currently updated every day, several times a day. And then they have a quarterly print magazine, which is kind of cool. It's not a monthly magazine, but I think that, you know, there's a few monthly magazines and you get overloaded with the same stuff day in and day out, and they're, I mean, they are different, to put it mildly. They touch on a lot of topics that a lot of other magazines are scared to touch, and they really are really honest, and they say a lot of things that people want to say, but they're just scared to. So, yeah, they have a quarterly magazine, which if you go to musclesportmagazine.com, you can see what the rates are. It's very, very cheap for a really high-quality, glossy magazine that you will get every quarter. And then online, they have a really, really good website with some interesting writers. One that comes to mind, I'm a little biased because I like the old-school stuff, is Victor Richards. I don't know if any of the younger people know who he is, but he was one of the hugest bodybuilders ever, with probably some of the best genetics ever, and he's actually a writer for them, so I was excited when they brought him on. So Muscle Sport Magazine is one of them. They're real nice guys over there. Greg Valentino and Joe Pietro are the two guys running it, and Joe used to work for Muscular Development, and so did Greg. So they definitely have a lot of experience with magazines and stuff like that.
Yeah,
another company.
I think you're seeing a morphing.
What's that?
Go ahead. No, I think you're seeing a morphing in the print industry. Like, you're seeing a lot of these magazines. Some are going to the wayside, and then other ones are completely changing. They're dropping athletes, and so I mean, it's an interesting landscape right now in bodybuilding.
Yeah.
So,
I agree.
Yeah.
Another company that I'm working with is LifeXMD. They're actually a hormone optimization clinic, also to get your blood work done, to keep you healthy, and then see if you have any hormones that are out of line. And they actually, lifexmd.com, and actually they have locations all across the country. They have one here in Michigan, in Bloomfield Hills, and I have had some clients I've sent over there that weren't really feeling well, and they've actually found stuff in blood work that they could correct, which were simple things. And then some other people get blood work done, and they do have some hormonal issues that they're low on, and obviously at a place like that, you're under a doctor's care, and you can get all fixed up and get your hormones working again right, and you can start making gains when you're training, because a lot of times when your hormones are not where they need to be, it's really hard to make any progress losing body fat and gaining muscle. So, and then, of course, Mind and Muscle. Great website with a lot of interesting articles, and they have some great products. And then they also distribute some other products, which are fantastic. And you can use my coupon code, which is Bill Tocco, for a free gift at checkout. I hope that's my coupon code. I always forget it, but I think it is. So, yeah, they have a great staff over there, including yourself, and some very interesting products. And I think some of the stuff I've heard that you guys are working on, I'm really excited about. So, especially the intra-workout drink. I just had to drop that in.
Yeah.
Something I use.
Yeah, the Intrafuse. Hopefully we'll have that out pretty soon, because I know we have a company that's out. We outsourced our production of those things, our powders to, and it's always like, you're next in the queue for the run, but when you have these big companies that do production for a lot of other companies, I mean, somebody steps in with a humongous order, and they might trump our small Michigan company order and push us to the back of the line. And that's just pure and simple economics. But I can tell you this, it's a fantastic drink when it comes in. People will be pretty blown away by it. It's
I'm excited to try that. And I need to give a little plug and a shout-out to the current pre-workout formula I'm taking, which a lot of people that I've let try it are very impressed by it, and that's Mesomorph by APS. Really good pre-workout. It has a lot of staying power as far as energy and a super intense focus component, which I really like. So it's definitely a pre-workout that people want to try. If they don't want to buy a whole thing and they can get a hold of a sample, that's great. But once you take that sample, you're going to want to buy a whole thing of it. It's really good. I love it.
Yeah, it's you know, I use it every morning at 6 a.m. Like I'm drinking it at 5:15 as soon as I get out of bed, because when I get to the gym, I mean, honestly, it's like I can't describe anything other than laser focus. Like I'm not jittery or amped up where I want to, you know, where I feel like my skin's crawling. I'm laser focused. I don't even want to, like, people try to talk to me and I have my headphones on, I get kind of mildly pissed off because I'm like, listen, I got 1 hour here for myself. Go away, you know. I don't want to have that conversation.
Your window. You know? That's what it is. Your pre-workout's kicking in, and you got your window.
Exactly.
So I always used to have a friend of mine that would always yell at his wife like, "Hey, I just took my pre-workout, man. Don't bother me. I got this window. I got to get to the gym in 30 minutes." I always thought that was funny, but And then the flavor that I'm currently enjoying is Rocket Pop, which is pretty cool. That's like the old school popsicle from the old days from the Ice Cream Man. So I've only tried that flavor. I know there's a watermelon, and I haven't tried that one yet, but I'm sure it's good too. But yeah, Mind and Muscle is a great place to go. Like I said, they are a distributor for some other top companies like High Tech, and soon to be. I don't know if you can announce that, can you?
Yeah.
Who High Tech bought? Why don't you tell everybody?
Oh yeah, you can. Well, we're partnered up with High Tech because we sold LG Sciences to High Tech. And so our owner, Eric Marshowitz, is working hand-in-hand with Jared Wheat quite a bit down in Norcross, Georgia, and out in their other manufacturing facility in Pennsylvania, you know, massaging LG into their line and trying to, you know, make sure everything's a smooth transition with the companies. But iForce Nutrition was bought by High Tech.
Yes.
So pretty soon we'll have some of their products, you know, in our store, like the Hemavol. I know is a very popular product.
Love
some of the
great.
Yeah, you know, so there's going to be more. I mean, we have like ALRI at our place. We have the High Tech line. Like a lot of people don't really realize like what High Tech has. They have like some pretty cool stuff. Like I actually was very unaware of their product line, but they have the Hydroxy Elite Pro, and actually Jared Wheat, the owner of High Tech, has been handing the FDA their ass in court over 1,3-dimethylamylamine, the DMAA, that was supposedly summarily banned by the FDA. Yeah, he's you know what, the people in this industry and consumers in general should really be thankful that a person had the balls to stand up and argue against the FDA, because not many people will take on the government. It's an expensive proposition, and it's like you know, it's the government. You know what I mean? It's like this isn't another company. This is the government of the United States of America, and they have like a lot of resources. So you know you're going to be entrenched in a pretty heavy battle. So I think people should like really be thankful and, you know, give Jared Wheat a shout out for it, you know, having the balls to stand up in the face of this, you know, kind of, I don't know what you'd want to call it, almost like a neo-fascist. You know, it's like, we don't want you to take this, we don't want you to take that. It's like, listen, it's my body. Let me take what I want. If I keel over, then you can you got one less mouth to feed, right? So, hey, to wrap things up, why don't you give us your contact info where people can get a hold of you if they're interested in, you know, acquiring your diet services, and you know, I'm sure that some people will be interested after hearing this. So,
yeah, actually, my website is warroomnutrition.com, and if you scroll down to any of the pages, you have my YouTube channel, my Instagram, my Facebook, and it goes right to my mail. And also there is a direct question page where you can submit a question, and that will go directly to me as well. On Instagram, I'm at War Room Nutrition. And on Facebook, I am Bill War Room Tocco. And that's all of them right there, pretty much.
That's awesome.
Contact info.
Any
yeah.
email address to get a hold of you at? Or,
you can actually
if they want to send you direct
from the website, or it's bill@warroomnutrition.com or info@warroomnutrition.com. That's WARROOM nutrition.com.
Awesome. No, I mean, it's I've known you for a while, and I mean, we have a pretty good relationship, and it's like I couldn't have picked a better person to bring on as the first guest on the show, and I wanted to get you out there and let people understand, you're a quieter guy. You're not there beating your chest and standing on social media with your 15,000 Instagram followers talking about you're the baddest dude on the planet, and you're a cerebral guy. You're a well-articulated guy.
I only do that in the privacy of my own home. Maybe not even in my home, in my shower. How's that? I beat my chest and yell.
Yeah,
but I don't know if I yell.
There's nothing wrong with it.
And I'm the greatest, but I do beat my chest and yell in the shower. I don't know why.
Yeah, wait till I put the video up of you. For all you listeners out there, you might want to tune in to you got to find it on my Facebook page, or I'll get it put up on the official Mind and Muscle Facebook page of how Bill Tocco takes Mesomorph.
Oh, yeah,
very interesting video. You want to check it out.
Well, you just happened to catch me, right before I was, about 40 minutes before I was about to train. So you actually saw my secret routine, and I wasn't contrived, or I wasn't doing it for the camera. You just happened to be at my house 40 minutes prior to when I train, and that's when I happened to take my Mesomorph. So I guess I won't spoil it and go any farther.
Yeah, no, that's good. After watching your video, I've been inspired. I was telling one of my coworkers I was gonna turn myself upside down and put a funnel in my ass and have them dump some Mesomorph in there. See if that gets there faster. And he's just you're a weird dude, Dave. You're a weird dude. So, anyways, I appreciate having you on. It's been an honor, to have you on our show. And
oh, thanks. Likewise, man.
In future, trust me, Bill's going to be doing guest spots with me, and where he's co-hosting, and we have other people on and talk. So, I suckered him into that gig. So you'll hear more from Bill Tocco in the future. So, hey, man, honored to have you, and I appreciate you. Hope you have a great night.
My
spend
pleasure.
Some time with your wife, and thank you for your time.
Oh, no problem. Anytime, buddy. Thank you very much.
Oh yeah, you're welcome.
Okay, so now what?